I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you please stand with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much for coming in tonight. Well, we kind of changed this around a little bit, maybe not. First item on our business is going to be a quarterly report from our Chamber of Commerce. And so, Heidi, would you like to come forward and talk about the Chamber's business?
Yes, thank you. For fourth quarter 2016, I also threw in some year total statistics as well. Our Facebook has nearly 1,800 fans and is a way in which we continuously provide information services, business news, community events, and information on hot topics. So in the fourth quarter of 2016, our award nominee post was the most popular. That specific post in and of itself gained nearly 14,000 impressions. And it was basically the photos of the awards nominees for Citizen of the Year, Business of the Year, and Volunteer of the Year.
Forgive that. That was a practice
My time's
run.
up.
Yeah, it's 3 minutes. No.
During this time, fourth quarter, our Facebook page attracted more than 60,000 unique users and an average, or a weekly average of engaging just over 2,500 unique users. Our top post of 2016 was our shared post of Shelton Cinema's Summer Monday movies schedule, which was interesting as they also were the ones who ended up winning the Business of the Year. So, post reached by city, you can look at the bottom of that first page there. Shelton, of course, is the highest number of annual likes, coming in at just shy of 360,000. Olympia came in second at just over 31,000, Union 21,000. You can see the rest. What's interesting, and didn't make the top 7, but Port Orchard and Bremerton seemed to fall upon our Facebook page in the third quarter of 2016, and they already are catching up. I anticipate that in 2017 they'll be in the top 5 of people interacting with our Facebook page, seeing what's happening in Mason County and what's going on. So that's great. If you look at our second page, I've provided the visitor counts for all of 2016. You can see there for the Caboose visitors, the Chamber office visitors, as well as the Hood Sport Visitor Center. So all in all, we're just shy of 20,000 visitors who have come into our visitor centers. So we are up about just shy of 2%, which is more than 300 visitors coming through our doors in 2016 over 2015. That is our greatest number of visitors in at least the history that I've been at the Chamber. You can see our phone calls there as well. They have increased about 5% overall for 2016 over 2015. Our website and calendar during fourth quarter, sheltonchamber.org, received about 7,000 visitors, 65% of which were new visitors. Our most popular page was again the event calendar, which is similar to what we're finding on Facebook. And then our second most visited page was our employment page, which we created in March of 2016. So lots of people out there looking for jobs, which is a great thing for Shelton and Mason County. Lastly, I just provided an update on our Bite magazine. We don't receive any LTAC funds for this, but it is a way that we promote Mason County and Shelton and what's happening and what's going on. 4 times last year, we mailed out this magazine to every address in Hoodsport, Shelton, and Union, as well as a couple thousand extra copies going to neighboring visitor information centers, and our businesses ask for extra copies in their lobbies, etc. In this most recent issue, which came out in mid to late November, It featured a couple pages on holiday magic, 4 pages on events and happenings, lots of spotlights on city businesses, a feature on the city streetscape, and then an article on the city's safe exchange zone, which a lot of people actually gave feedback that they weren't aware of that. So it's good to know that we're able to get the word out that way too. So that concludes my fourth quarter in 2016 report. Do you have any questions?
Questions or comments?
Yeah, how come you don't mail to Belfair?
We are specifically targeting these communities because that's where a lot of our chamber members live. Our chamber businesses are located there. The North Mason Chamber typically takes care of Belfair and Allen, so we don't worry about sending it out there. And to be honest, the cost is inhibited.
Yeah, I imagine that would be a few thousand more at least.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, that was the only question that I had.
I have a comment. Good job.
Thank you.
I got a comment. Good job. But let me, that's not a good lecture.
That was very original.
You have a new format here, looks like from the ones previously, so you did a little change here, I think.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, before it was very wordy, and as the way that we digest information changes, I figured that we'd update our reports as well, so they're a little bit more easy to follow and give you some images that are nice as well. So.
And congratulations, especially again, on another very successful gala event.
Thank you.
I mean, for the community, I can't quite imagine. We had another like 300 people there again this year or something like that. 300 last year, 300 this year. So.
Right.
But I tell you, I really look forward to that event. I think it's a great event that you do every year.
Yeah. It is our Mason County's largest business event of the year. We had just shy of 300 people this year. It's our community has so many people that give back in so many ways, not because they have to, but because they feel compelled to share of their time and talent. So to have one night that we can really honor these people and pull some acclaim to them and let them know somebody noticed and somebody is thankful for the job that you're doing for our community. It's a really great event.
It is.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for the report.
Thank you.
All right, next, this segues right into our weekly commission reports. And so, Commissioner Moore, did you have some items on your agenda this week?
Yes, I do. Tomorrow morning at 8:15, I will be on the radio with a couple of my friends. And then tomorrow afternoon, I have an executive housing board meeting and a regular housing board meeting. So that's a long afternoon, but always worthwhile. On Wednesday, I understand there is an after hours, and I'm going to try really hard to attend that. On Thursday, I'll be attending a Public Works Board workshop in Aberdeen. The title is Tools for Funding Future Infrastructure Projects, and so it should be a really good one. I think that our new city engineer is going to be going as well, and it'll be great. It's another opportunity to talk with the people that I've met through the years at the state and assure them that we're moving forward and looking for ways that we can move forward and try to understand the information that they give me for ways that we can put ourselves on a higher footing for getting additional grants and help with doing our projects that have been put on hold and others. And then on Friday, I will be attending the United Way Valentine Dessert and Gift Auction here at the Civic Center. It's a great event. I was one of the ones that initiated that event, and it has been perfected through the years, new changes every year, but it's one of the ones that raises a lot of money for our community, is a good cause and a great time. So that's my week.
All right, Commissioner McDowell.
Tuesday, if I can get up and be over there by 7:30, I am going to be attending the Capital Land Trust Annual Conservation Breakfast in Lacey. And it's at St. Martin's Pavilion, and we'll be meeting the new land commissioner that was voted in November. So looking forward to listening what she has. Wednesday after hours at 5:30, put on by the Mason County Chamber of Commerce. Friday, I will be attending the United Way Valentine Dessert and Gift Auction here at the Civic Center for United Way fundraiser.
All right, and on Wednesday, I will attempt to make it to the Chamber after hours, which is only 1 block away from my business, so I'm pretty sure that when I close, that would be an easy one for me to get to. Thursday is my Economic Development Council board meeting. Once a month, we have a board meeting, and I am the designated driver on that board, so I will be there. On Friday, I will also hopefully be back from Seattle in time to attend the United Way Dessert Auction. So that completes our weekly commission reports. We thank you for your patience to this opportunity, which is the general public comment. Do we have somebody signed in tonight? You didn't have to give me a picture of myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Commission. I'm Forrest Cooper from 409 West Railroad and 807 South 14th. And as a follow-up to my presentation last week on the safety concerns I have with the LED changeouts down on Railroad Avenue, during that presentation, I did have a question from Commissioner Moore asking about if I had checked out the light levels at the crosswalks behind Safeway. And it just so happens that that night, after that meeting, I went up that side of town and I came down in the dark and I watched about 4 people cross the road in one of the crosswalks and almost get hit by a car. And I said, wow, that's 2 references to that in one day, so let's go ahead and look at this. So I went out and took some measurements in the crosswalks at 7th and Franklin and 7th and Cedar, and I put together this artist rendering of the light patterns. As you know, LED lights, especially the new ones like what have been installed on that street, this again has nothing to do with railroad. This is just these intersections. They have very distinct light patterns that they put out. They're very sharp on the edges. And as you could see by looking at these numbers here, we have 2 crosswalks, major crosswalks going across 7th Street that are getting almost 0 illumination, even though the center of the intersection is being lit up quite well. The main one is the south side of Franklin and 7th Street. We have a crosswalk that is getting 0.8 lux of light. That is almost nothing. And that's on one side all the way over to 2.5. The average there is 1.5 lux, which is very, very, very low and almost dark compared to the standards that we need to live up to. So I also put on here the placement of the current light posts that are in place now. And there are some areas that I'm sure a lighting design consultant, such as Northwest Edison or even the PUD, could take a look at and find the right fixture to light those up a little bit better. So I just wanted to follow up to Commissioner Moore's question last week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I
All
have
right.
a comment.
Okay.
So I have have you presented this to the PUD yet?
It was my approach to approach the city first, since
Okay.
these are operations happening within the city limits. And I wanted to bring the safety concerns to your attention.
Justin at the PUD is really sharp on this project, and it's kind of his department.
Right.
So he would be thrilled to talk to you. I gave him a little heads up that you might be coming.
Well, this is one of those things that I definitely think is a safety concern for the city and a liability to the city.
And
And
the
I
PUD
think
works really well
that-
with the city.
that the city should definitely take the lead on this, and I can
Yeah.
help with some consulting if needed.
Yeah.
However, I don't think this issue is too big for a lone citizen or business owner as myself to take to them. So I just wanted to bring that there. I appreciate everything PUD does, and they do great work within the community. So
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That it?
No other public comment.
All right. Are we ready for a reading of the consent agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, could we please have a reading of the consent agenda?
Consent agenda, vouchers numbered 13604 through 13650 in the amount of $150,497.99. Meeting minutes from study session of December 27th, 2016, business meeting of January 3rd, 2017, study session of January 9th, 2017, and business meeting of January 17th, 2017.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
I second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The consent agenda passes. Under the action item, agenda, we have one item, and that's going to be the Rural Road Avenue Corridor Study, and that will be presented to us tonight by our Community Development Director, Mark Ziegler.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. This project might be a little familiar to the Commission, as we had a previous contract that was approved back in June of 2016 with KPG Studios. That contract expired at the end of December of 2016, so necessitated bringing this contract back to you today. There is some change of scope within the contract after getting a new, fresh look at it, I guess, and necessitating a new contract being executed. We took a look at it and changed the scope a little bit, and therefore reduced the cost a bit too. So this does present some savings to the city of Shelton. This project was originally funded through the Department of Commerce Stimulation Grant that came through Mason County to the city from the closure of the Simpson Mill. One of several projects, including the update of our comprehensive plan, some water modeling studies, assistance with the permit processing for the SPI mill, and then this Railroad Avenue Corridor study. The study will help bring the Railroad Avenue Visioning Project out to Highway 101, coordinate the work that was done with that committee all the way out to that entryway into the city. Looking at the pedestrian connections and traffic flow from 12th Street to Highway 101, the traffic calming road diet intersection improvements that were included within the visioning plan, and enhancing those, incorporating those into the entire corridor. Looking at the conceptual development based on that action plan for Evergreen Square, and as well as the Post Office Park and North 2nd, the conceptual and development ideas that came out of that downtown vision plan, action plan as well. So this will bring all those into place. 36,000, let me see, get this right, $36,096.20 are funded through the DOC grant as well. So that's existing funding that's available through June of 2017 in the grant. So we anticipate to have this project completed by that time. Staff's recommendation at this time is to authorize the mayor for approval and authorize the city manager to make any necessary budget modifications in 2017.
Questions or comments for Mark?
No, I'm excited to get this going. It's going to be
Yeah.
great.
I am too. So this doesn't really change anything, it just kind of restarts it with a few modifications.
A few modifications. We actually pared down some of the work that the consultant would do in town. We didn't see having some big charrettes and big community activities that already took place really with the visioning plan, the Railroad Avenue visioning plan. Really wanted to just bring that and bring it all the way out to 101 and recreate that wheel. So it actually pared down what the consultant originally proposed to do within the community, and some big community meetings. We'll still certainly have opportunity for input. We'll have opportunity for the commission to provide their input as well, but it really just pared down some of those activities, and then pared down a little bit of the activities from 7th Street to 1st Street as well, because those really were addressed within the downtown visioning plan, didn't really need to be rehashed.
I guess I would be a little bit concerned about not doing at least some public meetings, because this project will affect residents that are not in the city, that they may want to have some input into this as well.
We'll have public meetings, absolutely. We'll present in front of the commission. We'll have comment periods where people can come in. We'll have different renderings, different scenarios where people can comment on as well and, pick alternatives maybe or make their suggestions. But they'll certainly have the opportunity to provide comment in an open public forum.
Okay. So we will advertise that there will
Certainly,
be
certainly
opportunities
we'll work
for
with the
that.
chamber and other interested parties and engage citizens and businesses that have been involved in the past and as well to help bring as many people as we can
Okay.
to the table.
And I know that Terry Jeffries was very interested in participating in this, at least knowing what the steps are. So is she notified or?
We'll be in contact with the county, Mason Transit, and anybody else, any
Okay,
of the
good.
other public entities.
Transit was
that
the
would
other one that.
Certainly have a stake in this project as well, yes.
Yeah, well, it's a good opportunity to have those various entities work together. I know that Terry Jeffries and I had talked about it early on, and then got Brad Patterson in when he was on the Transit Authority Board. So I think it's good to keep those partnerships going. So thank you.
Just a point of clarification then, again, for the public, this is a 100% grant money.
It's not 100% at this point, no.
Okay.
There is $11,512.57 that would be funded out of the community development budget.
Oh, that's right, I did read, but we did reduce the amount from 49 down to like 30 something, so.
Originally, the contract amount was $84,000. We brought it down to in $60,000 range. This contract's for $47,000 due to the amount that was, the work that was already completed in 2016 and already paid for through the
Right.
grant.
And then this money is budgeted. We have this money budgeted.
We do.
Okay. All right. That's all I think the questions we have. We do have an opportunity for someone from the public to speak if they want about this specific subject. So if anyone would like to, now would be that opportunity. If not, I think we will entertain a motion. So would I have a motion to pass this on?
Absolutely. I move we approve the contract with Studio KPG for the Railroad Avenue Entry Corridor Planning rescope and authorize the mayor to sign on behalf of the commission and authorize the city manager to make necessary budget modifications.
Okay.
I will second that.
There's a motion and a second to approve this contract with Studio KPG. All those, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This will pass on to our next week's meeting. This is an action item, so it's a done deal. Okay, so it's a done deal. Very good. All right, and next is under our business agenda. We're going to have a little, some options about our solid waste, and that's going to be presented to us by our Public Works Director, Craig Gregory.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Before I begin tonight with the solid waste options, I would like to take a moment to recognize and acknowledge the efforts of three of the most dedicated, passionate, and hardworking employees the city has ever had. Solid waste crew lead Mike McLean, assistant lead Louis Zorn, and operator Donnie Henson have without fail met and exceeded expectations of their customers and in every other aspect of their work. These three individuals have provided incredible customer service over the years, and with their resourcefulness and innovative thinking, they have ensured that the department could function successfully and provide the necessary services. The financial shortfalls of the solid waste utility are in no way a reflection of these incredible employees. With that being said, we are here this evening to put our emotions aside and make a sound business decision that is in the best financial interest of the citizens of the city of Shelton. With this first slide, we're looking at the health of the utility and the performance that it has had over the last 4 years. And as you can see, in 2013, we were in the black with over 71,000, falling into a negative in 2014 of almost 32,000, and a negative of just over 32,000 in 2015, and then a back into the black in 2016 of almost 68,000. But one thing to note with that positive in 2016, that came after a cumulative over 23% rate increase that we had passed 2 rate increases in 2015 and 1 in early 2016, all of which were 7.2% rate increases. Mayor, Commissioners, please stop me if you have any questions. I'm sure there's going to be some. There is a lot of information within this, so certainly feel free to interrupt me at any point.
Did you say in 2015 we had a 7.8% increase?
You had, in January of 2015, you had a 7.2% rate increase.
Okay,
And then another one in July of 2015 of 7.2%. And then you had an additional 7.2% rate increase in January of 2016.
okay.
So after all of those, we still were in the positive, but just barely.
Okay.
So this evening, we are here to talk about 3 options. These have been discussed for a very long time, many months. And these are the 3 that we came up with. Option 1 would be to continue with the solid waste utility business as it functions now, with residential solid waste pickup, residential recycling, and commercial garbage pickup, along with yard waste for residential. Option 2 would be to expand city services to include some of the other functions that right now we do not service. That was presented to you back in April of 2016, which would include roll-off boxes, commercial cardboard pickup, and commercial recycling. Option 3 would be to privatize the solid waste business and get completely out of any aspect of the business. So what we need with some of these options, with option 1, which was to continue current services, would be no rate increase for 2017, a 9% rate increase in 2018, and annual rate increases of 3% every year.
Excuse me, Craig, do we have each of these sheets in our packet? Like, I can't find that one with, is it in here? I'll stop looking now.
So the 9% rate increase that would be slated for 2018 would address our C Street landfill funding to a certain level, which would be 6%, and then the 3% operational increase that would be needed to stay on the positive side. And that 6% would generate about $100,000 a year. In option 2, in 2017, we would need to secure around $336,000 to expand our services, and that would include a new rear load truck to pick up cardboard and containers, along with some land acquisition and the construction of a recycle transfer station. Along with that, you would need an 8% rate increase, which would be 6% again for C Street, and a 2% operational increase in 2018, and 2% operational increases from the year 2019 forward. With option 3, privatizing what has been proposed to us by Mason County Garbage in a tentative offer would be a 0% rate increase for 2017, a 2.5% rate increase for the first 10 years of the contract, and a 100% of the CPI increase, which over the last 11 years has averaged 2.16%. So we use that annual average to project forward from 2027 through 2036 for the second 10 years of the contract at 2.16%.
What's CPI?
The Consumer Price Index, and that would be the Seattle, Tacoma, Bremerton CPI. So this kind of shows you over the next 20 years, which would be the life of the contract with Mason County Garbage. So we projected out to show you what the next 20 years would look like for our ratepayers. As you can see, the black line is option 1, which would be the 3% rate increases annually. The red line would be expanding services at a start off of an 8% increase and 2% annual increases after that. And that green line would be the privatizing with Mason County Garbage to take over all services.
So after an initial investment in option 2, it looks like the end results would be pretty much the same for options 2 and 3?
That is correct. Projecting out 20 years.
Okay.
That is also projecting that our annual operation costs stay at around 2%, which is difficult to forecast. Those would be everything from maintenance of trucks to purchasing of equipment to employee costs, which all of those things can be very difficult to forecast. So if we look at that, we took those numbers off of the comp plan for the cost inflation of doing business, and that's what we came out with, but that is very difficult to forecast. So if we look at the pros of these 3 options, option 1, the city would maintain control over the utility and all of the services provided. It also gives us a plan to raise funding for the C Street landfill cleanup. Under option 2, also, we would maintain city control over the utility. Also would address the C Street issue and potentially expand revenue of up to $63,500 a year. This, though, is the full market share of what we would be going after. We would have to compete with Mason County Garbage in every aspect that we are talking about getting into. So that would mean we would have to spend some extensive man hours to go out and drum up that business to get them to move to the City of Shelton services. And I don't know that it's likely that we would get everybody to move, even though our rates are about 20% lower. We would have to get a hold of every one of those businesses and individuals to get them to come in and actually sign up for city services. So that is the full market that we could capture.
And that's just initially, or would that be expected to grow over time?
That would grow if we ended up expanding the city limits, or we ended up getting growth within the city. That could expand, but up to that point, that would be the full market.
It could be that you collect 0 year 1, year 2. That's all the market that's out there right now.
Privatizing pros, we would certainly gain some needed space down at the public workshop. They have been pretty limited in their space and expansion down there. If we eliminated the utility, it would open up 3 indoor covered parking stalls, and also about a quarter of the yard that's down there at this point, where the cans are stored. Some of the vehicles are stored outside, and some needed space down there. It could also address the C Street landfill funding. There is going to be an initial payment from Mason County Garbage that we could set some of that aside to go towards the cleanup of C Street. Reallocation of staff hours while maintaining the current FTEs that we have. There is a revenue sharing component to this that would basically give us the amount of money right now that the solid waste utility is paying all of the other departments to function and operate the utility. So what that would mean is all of those functions that they do right now for solid waste would go away, and they would be able to focus their time and efforts onto some of the things that maybe they aren't doing very well right now, or expanding those services to get to some of the stuff that they haven't been getting to in the past.
So there would be more on board to do some repairs on the roads, items like that.
Not necessarily the roads.
Okay.
The solid waste utility really hits financial services,
Okay.
customer
All right.
service, the EM&R fund for maintaining vehicles. There's a little bit of public works in there, but it would really mean employees down here at City Hall, not necessarily out fixing roads and those kinds of things.
You said gain greater space in the shop yard, so what would you use that extra space for?
Really, it comes down to a safety issue. There have been some major issues down there with just moving equipment around. We could expand some of the covered parking. Right now, there isn't really a lot of space to expand any of that.
Okay.
We've got a lot of vehicles that are parked outside, which isn't real good on them. So it would give us some options to expand once some of those vehicles and some of those containers were out of there.
Okay.
Could you address, like the employee, we have 3 employees, 4 employees that are employed at the moment with the solid waste there?
We have 3 FTEs at this point.
Okay. And when we were talking, we've been talking about this for a long time, and I asked the question earlier, but for the public's consumption, all 3 employees can be absorbed, that no one would lose their job over this decision if we chose to sub this out and the city didn't take control of that?
We have been planning for this for a while with the thought that we would make some decisions on this. So we have left 2 positions open for about 6 months that we could backfill with a couple of those employees. We have also had one of the employees come to us before we ever started discussing this, and he had let us know unofficially that he would be retiring in October of 2017. So there would be a very short time we would have to figure out what we were going to do with that one employee. But as far as the other 2, yes, we would be absorbing them. And the proposal at this point would be to start the privatization in July. So that would be a fairly short time before that other employee did retire.
And I'm not sure that I see this in here, but I don't know what all exactly you can describe to us, but is the options on the equipment that we're using, what would we do with all of the existing equipment that we have?
The existing equipment Most of the existing equipment would be sold also to Mason County Garbage. There has been a tentative offer for 3 of our side load automated trucks and the containers and carts that are out in the field at this point. The other equipment that we have would need to be surplus. There are some older garbage trucks that they were not interested in. There's a roll-off vehicle, a couple of pickups, and some small tools that they've got, pressure washers and things like that, that they were not interested in. So we would have to either have other departments take those and reallocate those, or we would have to surplus them and get rid of those.
It seems also from, again, we've been talking about this for a year or more, and it seems like in my investigative research that in a mayor's conference I was at about a year ago, I did ask the question. I said, you know, we're considering getting out of the garbage recycling business, and it appears that this is a move that has been happening quite a bit amongst other cities, because 9 out of 10 mayors said they got out of this business. One city stayed in it, but they only have 2,800 people. So it appears that there's a move that when it comes to maintenance of the equipment, and a lot of cities are moving in the direction of subbing this chore out. Is that, did you sense that?
That is correct.
It is correct.
We did a small snapshot. We just wanted to kind of see where our rates were at with the city of Shelton for solid waste collection. We ended up calling 5 other municipalities. Olympia was the only one that was still city-run, and we found that our rates were quite a bit less than what the others were. But yes, you are correct. Most of those other cities are moving to privatization.
The other thing I like about it is, if we were to sub this chore out, is that, you know, I think most of us are firm believers in this last rate increases where we increased rates in the tens of 20% overnight, that the long process of incremental small rate increases, I do like that if we did sub this out, that the would be a 2.5 steady increase, and so that it gets predictability with the ratepayers, that what we've just gone through in the past few years of the 20, 30, 40, 50, 60% jumps in these rates, that it won't happen in that department. That would be a locked-in 10-year rate, right? For 2%, 2.5% per year for 10 years.
That's correct, and then 100% of the CPI, which has been running just over 2% for the remaining 10 years. So you would have some consistency for about the next 20 years.
And would the service, this is just a side note, would the service, would we still put everything in the 3 containers? Is it that type of a thing, or does everything go in 1 container?
Mason County Garbage has proposed to go to 1 solid waste container and 1 recycle container, and then they would have a separate container for glass only that they would pick up. But for the most part, they would be moving towards single stream recycling that would exclude glass, but they would pick the glass up separately. So yes, you would still have 3 containers out there. It'd be configured a little bit differently than it is now. All of the paper goes in 1 container, the commingled goes in another container, and then you've got your solid waste container right now.
So actually, we'd have 4 containers. 1 would have glass in them.
No, you'd still have 3. You'd have a single stream recycling
would go
container,
with-
and then you'd have glass.
Okay, so all your paper, cardboard, and metal
Tin,
goes
yes.
in 1.
Oh,
Correct.
And then you have 1 for glass.
That
Okay,
is correct.
I see. I have a question, a little bit of a concern about glass going into our landfill.
It's not going to go into our landfill. They just want to take it out of the recycling stream and put it in its own container. They would still be recycling it.
Oh, okay.
But they would be isolating that glass outside of those other commodities.
Okay,
And their commodity prices jump dramatically when they take the glass out of it. I think that's the reason that they are taking that glass out. But they still would be recycling it.
But
It is not going to landfill.
am I wrong in understanding that they do not take glass in the county?
They do not take glass in the county.
Okay,
That is correct.
so
They
would be
did not want to change any of the city's services, though. They want to
Right.
provide the same services that we are providing now.
Okay. I was concerned about that glass going into the landfill.
It is not going into the
Okay.
landfill.
So in the county too, I had county service for a while, and the same plastics that we're used to recycling could not be recycled through Mason County garbage. Something about the size of the neck of the container.
Well, Mason County Garbage at this point is taking all of our recycling. That is where we get rid of our recycling right now. So I haven't confirmed that, but I'm guessing that they are not going to change any of the requirements that we have right now.
So you can recycle yogurt containers and cottage cheese containers.
I will have to verify that, but we certainly can. But as of this point, Mason County Garbage is taking all of our recycling.
Okay, and we also have the option for yard waste recycling in the city of Shelton, which I don't know how well used that is. It's a godsend for me.
It is fairly well used.
So would we be continuing that?
Yes, certainly. They are going to offer every service that is provided now.
Christmas trees.
Most likely, Mayor, we will be continuing. That is a function that is done by solid waste, but we would most likely absorb that through one of the other utilities to pick up those. For the most part, customer or community service picks those up at this point. And then we've got some city staff that ends up chipping them down at the shop yard. But for right now, the last couple of years, it's been community service that has gone around and picked those up. So we would still continue that service as well, but that would be in-house.
So, I'm sorry.
So as far as the employees, though, is Jason's position no longer funded at all by recycling?
It's not.
Okay, so we would not have to worry about that portion of man hours as well?
That is correct. Mason County Garbage has also offered to attend the SWAC meetings, which were the meetings that Jason, the regional solid waste meetings that Jason was attending. They will now sit on that committee representing the city of Shelton.
Can I get a list of what is funded in the city through the solid waste revenue?
Certainly,
Could you get that to me?
certainly, we can
Okay,
provide that.
I'd appreciate that.
Well, we've had a lot of discussion.
Are you finished with your presentation?
No.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah, please.
Sorry.
But continue with
Sorry,
questions.
we were.
Okay.
These are great.
Sorry.
Okay, continue on.
These are great. So moving forward from those, the cons would be for option one, we would need to continue to replace our equipment. We haven't been very good at that in the past. So we would have to continue to fund the depreciation and continue to replace that equipment. Obviously, a fairly decent-sized rate increase for 2018. And we'll get to the annual staff hours in the next slide, but there's about 10,500 staff hours that are needed for the option one function of the utility.
Is the large rate increase, have you told us what that's expected to be?
It's expected to be 9%.
Okay,
A 6% rate increase to put about 100,000 into the C Street landfill cleanup,
okay,
and a 3% rate increase for operational costs.
okay,
So a total of 9% in 2018.
okay.
And if we chose to sub that out, it was 0% in the first year,
It is a 0% rate increase in all three options for 2017.
in all three options.
That is correct. So in option two, expanding, we would need some new equipment, a rear load truck for cardboard pickup. We would have to start utilizing our roll-off truck that is an aging vehicle that hasn't been out on the road, but we would have to start utilizing that. Again, we would need a fairly large rate increase of 8%, 6% to the solid or to the C Street landfill cleanup, and 2% operational. All of the expansion would cost about $336,000 to implement. It would be an increased workload for the new business. We figured the total estimated hours for option 2 would be 11,400. And that would mean increased hours for not only billing, customer service. We would have to go out and actually drum up the business. It would affect the EM&R fund. And the cons in option 3 is we lose control over the utility. It would go into Mason County Garbage's control, even though I don't necessarily see it as a loss of control. They have built in some pretty decent safeguards with increases tied to the CPI. So I think we're fairly certain on what those increases would be. So I don't necessarily see that necessarily as a con, losing that control.
One thing I'm kind of concerned about is that if we take this out and privatize it with Mason County Garbage, that the fleet that they have stays in good condition so that our customers in Shelton are looking at good, healthy, sturdy, clean, maintenance trucks running on our streets.
I can't guarantee that they will be.
I know.
We do have some vehicles that are well over 10 years of life and way past their useful life.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you that Mason County Garbage and Waste Connections are a very large business and have a very large cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, I can't guarantee what they will be putting out on the road, but I would think that they would not be running around trucks that are going to cost them quite a bit in maintenance costs. I
Yeah.
would think they would keep some
I just
fairly
want
new
our
trucks
city
out there.
citizens to be proud of the trucks running on our streets.
Yes.
Okay.
So again, if we go back to and put this slide in just to highlight what the estimated city staff time is. Again, remembering that we are bringing in enough in our revenue sharing of around $500,000 annually that Mason County Garbage would be paying us, that we would not be losing any staff, but our workload would certainly be going down. Option 1 takes about 10,500 staff hours. Option 2 would take about 11,400. And we're anticipating just the random call from a customer that maybe doesn't realize that their new provider is Mason County Garbage. There are some things that we still would have to do, processing, some billing, and receiving the money in from Mason County Garbage. So there are still some staff hours, but we're estimating that to be about 324 annually.
Do you think
So-
that might go down once we get into this? I mean,
It certainly could.
okay.
I think that's a pretty decent estimate moving forward, though. But you can see how we would go from upwards of 11,000 hours to down to around 300. So we would certainly be able to utilize our staff and have them do the things that they are supposed to be doing very well. We could certainly reallocate them to doing some of that stuff maybe that they haven't gotten to in the past.
Do you think that next time that we have a presentation that the fine print could be larger than what it is? I can see it, but I've got to focus. You know, like I see the estimated city staff time, I have no problem with that sentence, but the other stuff, I got to kind of squint a little bit. So I don't know who sets these things up on that, you know.
We could certainly take a look at that.
I'm just saying for me and maybe other people in the public who may be wearing the trifocals I'm wearing, that it might be a little bit better to have larger print.
We'll push that off onto Vicky.
You need
Vicky's.
opera glasses.
Okay, Vicki?
That's not my department, that would be Vicky.
Okay. Thank you.
So staff's recommendation would be to privatize, move forward with option 3. Like I said, the tentative offer that we have for Mason County Garbage would be a 20-year contract, which would be a 10-year fixed contract with 2 5-year extensions, automatic extensions. The annual franchise fee of $500,000 plus. And just one thing to kind of mention with the franchise fee, every time there is a rate increase of 2.5%, the revenue goes up, which means our revenue share goes up also. And by the end of this contract, in 20 years, our revenue share portion would be around $750,000.
And that's the franchise fee?
We are calling it a revenue share because normally when you talk about a franchise fee, it would be a pass-through to the customer. And this revenue share is actually embedded into the existing rates that we have at this point.
So we need to cross franchise out and put revenue share. Right?
Within the industry, I think you could call it either one.
Okay.
Is that like a word salad, though? Is that doesn't change where the money comes from, does it?
That's correct.
So it's still built into the fees that the consumer pays?
It's part of the fees that are charged now, and everything that we do is passed through to the customer. If we go back to this slide, within those rates, everything that we do is passed through to the customer.
So is there, remind me, the revenue share, is the revenue share something that we have now?
It is built into the rates now to pay for existing staff to do the functions that the solid waste department needs, as far as billing, customer service, the staff that actually goes out and picks up recycling and solid waste within the EM&R fund to repair and maintain vehicles. That's what that revenue share is paying for now.
I guess I'm confused though, because I thought that one of the, I don't know where it came from here, but I thought that one of the pros for privatizing was that there would be a franchise fee that the city would receive that we weren't maybe currently receiving.
That's a 500,000, isn't it?
It's a component of the rates now. So right now, we are essentially paying ourselves. We take in, let's just call it $500,000. We take that in, and then that money is shared between the different departments. So what we're looking at in option 3 is that we would still maintain that share through a franchise fee. Mason County Garbage and Recycling would pay us, and then we would distribute it and share it through the departments as it is now.
Okay, but that money, that fee would be generated through rates.
Correct.
So like we're paying for it basically through our utility bill.
Through the existing rates.
Okay, and so, okay.
And as Kathy asked for, we can certainly bring you back a list next week of what everything solid waste pays for. There are portions of just about all of us sitting or standing here within this room. It also pays for a portion of alley maintenance for the street department. There are a lot of components that are paid for out of that $500,000.
Well, the money, I mean, sure, that sounds great. I like to hear, oh, we'll be generating 500,000 or in a few years, 750,000. And I'd like hearing that, but I also want to be sure that we know that it's actually the customers that are paying for that. So that is built into the rate fee. And
That is
I don't
correct.
think that was something I had a difficult time understanding, is that it's kind of like a tax that's built into the rate structure.
I think that would be accurate.
Okay, that was my question for that.
That is consistent across every option.
I guess I feel like if I didn't understand that until recently, that it's maybe something that we need to be clear about when we're talking about this. Because,
Certainly.
you know, I thought it was extra money. I was glad about it until I realized, oh, we need to look at it more closely, because it's, you know, for the most part, people don't want to know where their taxes are going.
Certainly.
There won't be a line on the bill that says city tax or franchise tax, like Hood Canal Communication, well.
It's
anyway, there's
embedded
other-
within the rates.
Right, so there's not going to be a city tax on it, it's going to be in the rates.
Correct.
Okay.
So what we negotiated with Mason County Garbage is there would be an initial payment for it's actually almost 2.5 years, because we're only talking about half of 2017. All of 2018 and a portion of 2019, $1 million payment up front to cover all of those things that Mason County Garbage, or that the Solid Waste Department pays for now. So that would not be extra money if we continue to do the things that we do now within that. There would be a one-time payment of $710,000 for there's 3 automated trucks, garbage trucks that Mason County Garbage will buy, and the carts that are out in the field. And that one-time payment would be $710,000. Again, no rate increase in 2017. First 10 years of a CPI rate increase with a 2.5% minimum, and then no minimum from years 11 through 20 of the contract. And a county transfer tipping fee direct pass-through also. Better options for the commercial customers within the city of Shelton. Mason County Garbage will initially buy all of the 300-gallon black containers that we have out there that serve the resident or the commercial customers. They will, at the beginning of 2018, start replacing those with more options for container size. Right now, if you've got enough, you generate enough solid waste to need more than one of the 300-gallon containers, we just line up more containers. And they would offer, those are about 1.5 yards. They would offer options from 1.5 up to 8-yard containers for those commercial accounts. And those would also have locking lids, which would give us a little more control over some of the issues we've had with some dumpster diving and some of those things in our alleys. So they would start to do that in 2018 and hopefully move forward with that in a fairly quick manner.
So the commercial recycling in the city is about 20% lower than in the county. Is that right?
The proposed amount would be 20% less. Right now, we do not offer commercial recycling.
Okay.
Mason County Garbage also already does that function
Okay,
for
so
us.
that's not going to change, is it?
That is not going to change.
Okay, I see.
Rates will stay exactly where they're at for 2017 across the board for every function that we provide.
Okay,
And then there will be a straight 2.5% rate increase or 100% of the CPI for the first 10 years
okay.
for every one of the services.
So, and the reason that there's no rate increases is because we voted to curtail rate increases for 2017 on all of our utilities?
I don't think we addressed solid waste within that.
So
But
it-
at this point, we are running in the black. We have got positive cash flow for 2017. So within option 1 and 2, we would not need a rate increase.
Because
And-
we increased it 22%.
A little over 23%.
Yeah, in about a year and a half.
That's
And
correct.
That was hard.
So yeah, we would not need one in option 1 or 2, and in
Okay.
option 3, Mason County Garbage has offered to not have a rate increase for 2017 either.
Okay. Now, when you were talking about the recycling, business recycling being 20% less in the city, we're not currently doing that?
In option 2, if we expanded our services.
In option 2, if we expanded our services, we would then be collecting the business recycling?
We would have to bring that forward to the commission to set rates for that, but the proposed rates would be about 20% lower than what Mason County now offers
Sure.
in the county. But
Okay.
the offer that they've got under option 3 are our rates. So under option 3, their rates would not be any higher within the city. They are in the county, but with the density that they have within the city.
Longer distances.
Exactly. They can do that function for less of a cost. So their rates would be exactly what we would propose to bring forward to you in option 2.
And that's, okay, and that's for 10 years?
10 years with a minimum 2.5% and this 100% of the CPI, and then no minimum from years 11 through 20, which the CPI over the last 11 years we calculated was 2.16 was the average.
Are you finished?
That is
yet?
the end of the.
Oh,
that is,
okay.
So any questions that you do
Because I
have?
didn't feel like I want to skip back here. Because I don't, I'm not sure that I'm understanding what is proposed, the pros and cons of option 2. I know we've done, several of us have done a lot of research about that and been presented with options that certainly made option 2 sound more attractive. And so I just would like to have a full rundown on this. And then also, I would like to request that presentation on hard copy. So
Certainly.
I could look at it.
We can do that.
And study it a little bit more. So I know one of the things that has been discussed as well, and nothing bad for Mason County Garbage, except that if we sell to Mason County Garbage, we have a monopoly in the whole area. And so there aren't any other options, basically, once that's gone, or even now, I guess, as we don't have a choice other than maintaining our own or going with them. That's our choice, bottom line.
That is correct. But that is why we negotiated what I feel is a very, very attractive offer from Mason County Garbage.
Mhm.
And it sets rates so that we are not uncertain to where we are going with Mason County Garbage. They have given us an offer that gives us some stability where we know where those rates are going to be. I think it would be a different story if we left those up in the air, but I think we have tightened that up fairly well.
Okay. So there were, during some of the discussions about doing the option 2, there were built into that option some capacity for raising funds, raising revenues that we're not currently taking advantage of.
I didn't understand the question.
In option 2, if we took over the cardboard recycling and things like that, there were some options for raising revenue as part of that.
That is that full market share of 63,500. So if we go out and get there's about 90 commercial recycling accounts.
Uh-huh.
I believe about the same for commercial cardboard. And there are in the neighborhood of 12 to 14 roll-off containers that are set containers that are picked up on either a weekly or a monthly basis. And then there's those cleanup containers that go out for roll-offs also. But that would be capturing every one of those services that Mason County Garbage is providing now to our customers.
And that would be an annual, each year we would pull about 63,000 in.
A maximum of 63,000.
Could be less.
It could be dramatically less,
Okay.
yes.
And it could be more if we were to get businesses that participated in the program that we're not expecting.
No, this is the maximum amount of revenue that would be generated. So if we got all 90 commercial accounts to transfer from Mason County Garbage to us, this would be the 63,500 would be the maximum additional revenue that we would be able to generate.
Okay.
Another question I have, basically what we have in option 1 and option 2 are guesstimations, estimations on what the future could look like. With option 3, we have a 10-year guaranteed rate.
That's correct. Well,
I mean,
it could be slightly higher if you had one spike in the consumer price index. There has been, over the last 11 years, there was one year where it was a 4%. There was also another year where it was 0.2, I think, of a percent. So
more of a guaranteed on option 3 than on option 1 and option 2, because remember, no offense to the city, but we have had a history of unfortunately running into extreme high cost overruns, and certainty on a incremental rate is a lot better than, I think, because we haven't had the best reputation on keeping rates low.
And like I said before, those are, as you stated, they are estimates, and our operational costs that we estimated to be 3% with option 1, 2% with option 2 are estimates. That means certainly if the commission decides to give your employees a rate increase or a salary increase, or your medical benefits go up extremely, there are some things there
Or a
that...
truck blows up.
Or a truck blows up. You've got some uncertainties in your operational costs that, at this point, we are using the comp plan that a consultant put together in the water comp plan that gave us estimates on what those operational cost increases are. And that's what we used, was the existing water comp plan increases in operations.
Is there any wiggle room in this 500,000-ish, a little lower, a little higher, to put any money towards the C Street maintenance after we get it closed and cleaned up? We're going to probably have a 30-year maintenance time to keep maintaining that. Is there going to be any money that will be set aside?
The commission can decide to do whatever they would like with that money. If you reduce that funding level at this point, that would most likely mean you are either going to cut services in one of the other departments, such as the street department, or you are going to lose FTEs in one of the other departments, such as the financial services or customer service.
But would we be able to take any of that money out of that franchise fee that they're paying us to go towards the maintenance?
Not at this point.
Okay.
You could, though, opt for the one-time payment of $710,000. You could take all or a portion of that funding and put it towards C Street.
Yeah, because there was a question about that. We have not, unfortunately, been able to save towards the the cleanup of the C Street dump, which we want to do. What's this, 106,000 per year? Somewhere in your presentation, I heard something about $106,000 per year for the C Street dump?
The 6% rate increase that we proposed in option 1 and 2, the
Oh.
first year, would generate an
Right.
annual 100,000 to go towards the C Street landfill cleanup. So that 6%
option-
rate increase would address that C Street issue.
Gonna know. Chehalis, they're paying 147,000 or something a year to keep their solid waste, their garbage.
Until our remedial investigation is done, we have no clue
Yeah.
on what that will look like.
But in
And-
option, I'm sorry, go ahead. finish
Sorry,
your
Mayor, I
thought.
didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's all right, we were all interrupted.
With any of these options, we are not going to be the ones to clean up or maintain C Street landfill anyway. You are talking about needing a grant from DOE
Well,
or some other
yes,
funding
absolutely.
source
That's right. Yeah.
to do that.
Yes.
So I think at this point, I think
Aw.
if you could,
Thank you.
I think at this point, see, that was service, wasn't it?
I know,
Boy, these
thank
are
you.
hot off the press, man.
Because he's young.
Basically, what you're looking for us tonight, and we've asked a lot of really good questions, and we can still do that. You're not looking for a decision tonight. We're going to put this on, the decision will be at the next opportunity. So we're not voting
Correct.
on anything tonight.
Correct. We would like to certainly give you as much information as
And
We
I
can
know
certainly
that
give
I've-
you today.
I've been thinking about this for a year or so, and I've talked for you and to Ryan and everybody else for a year and looking at, so we've spent a lot of time formulating our ideas. You've given us all good, solid information that we can take home with us, and you're looking, that we want to concur. I think we need to concur to get the city moving to make a decision. So
Certainly.
your request is that if we concur to bring this back,
That's correct.
that we should be able to do that.
Give us a few weeks to get more questions answered.
And
We,
I'm sorry. I don't know who
Are we
this-
looking at a couple weeks before we make a decision, or what are we looking at?
unless there's additional questions that you have that we can't answer, we would really like to get moving with this. If we start to take a couple of weeks in chunks,
Yeah.
that July date for Mason County garbage to take over, we probably will miss. There's still a lot of components with this that we have to work out. And if we don't move in a fairly timely fashion, we are not going to be able to hit that date.
From staff side, we're ready to make the recommendation that Craig's talked about tonight. We can certainly, if you concur to put it on the agenda, we can do that and pull it if you end up with questions that need to be researched further.
Well, I just wonder, I don't know if it would help out in the process. I definitely want more information. But in my mind, the only options we should be considering are options 2 and option 3. Option 2, option 3. Because it's clear to me from this report and from what we've heard is that option 1 is not sustainable by any means. We still would be having difficulties trying to play catch up every year. So am I reading that wrong?
Option 2, I will be completely honest with you. I was one that tried to sell option 2 back in April, but option 2 does have some flaws to it. I met with Mike Johnson, who was the former owner of Mason County Garbage. Some things that I hadn't thought about that he brought up that were very good points, and it was very good talking to him as just a neutral party, had been in that arena for quite some time. We talked about all 3 options, and the option 2, the one thing that he did warn me against was the maintenance of the roll-off truck that we have. He indicated that even with a newer truck, the maintenance costs of roll-offs are very expensive for the truck, the boxes. So Unfortunately, I think that we have given you the best case scenario with option 2. So I would caution against looking at that and looking at the best case scenario with option 2.
Well, I would still like to consider option 2. I can give up on option 1. I will tell you where I'm coming from is that I feel like our community has a lot of pride, and it's, everyone knows their garbage guys are the most popular men in town because of their awesome customer service, because of the fact they're always willing to help out, sometimes in ways that maybe they shouldn't, but they are so well respected and so much appreciated by our community. And I feel a strong loyalty to them, and I know a lot of our citizens feel a strong loyalty to them too. And I don't want to degrade the things in our city that our citizens feel proud of and feel happy about and feel that that's a good thing to look at in our city. And I don't want to do that lightly, and I don't want it to be a surprise if we should decide to go with option 3.
I will tell you, Tracy, I have spent a lot of time on this since November of 2015, looking at all of these options. And for me, it has been one of the most difficult decisions because of some of the reasons that you speak of. But really looking at it as a business decision, and that's why I said originally that we need to put our emotions aside. There are some things that are going to need to change if we continue forward with option 1 or 2. The level of customer service that we provide now will likely not be at that level moving forward. The extra pickups that we go back for when a customer calls in and says, I forgot my garbage and the garbage man drove by 5 minutes ago. Right now, we, on occasion, will not charge that customer if we're, a couple blocks down the road to circle back and go back and get those. Those expanded services in option 2, our solid waste utility employees will be running. We put together a full weekly schedule for them, tracking time, and they were down to the minute to finish all of the options and the services that we would provide in option 2 in an 8-hour day with those 3 employees. So to be able to circle back to pick up an extra pickup or to come back from across town because their garbage only got half dumped probably can't continue. And we will need to, if we do move forward with options 1 and 2, we will need to condition our customers to understand that we are not going to provide that level of service anymore. So when you look at that, I know that's difficult to hear, but we have gotten so used to providing that level of service, which is great. I would be the first one to admit that. At one time, I was one of those garbage drivers, and I took great pride in that. But when you look at this business decision that's in front of us, you have to understand that we most likely will not be able to continue to provide that level of service moving forward.
Yes, and I understand there are costs and there are efficiencies to be considered as well, but sometimes sometimes every cost can't be measured monetarily.
That's true.
Once it's gone, I don't see that we'll ever get our own service back again, so I refuse to take it lightly. And I know that you guys have put a lot of time into this, but I think it is a very big decision. In general, I'm against privatizing our services, and so looking at it is a really important thing to me, and I would like to really be clear on the various options.
Okay,
Yes,
I think what we have to do is make a decision if we're going to follow staff's recommendation and that is that we bring this to the action agenda at next meeting. It's February 13th. I would vote to concur that we do that. So that would be, and that's a one-week turnaround. So I would concur that we can educate ourselves during this week to be of sound mind to vote at that time. So that's where I am in following staff's recommendation at the moment. So if you ladies want 2 or 3 weeks, Mason County Garbage may not be here. I think we need to take that seriously, that it's our job to make decisions, and I think we need to make them. We've been talking about this for a year, so I can easily see moving forward, and up or down, make our decisions. So the ball game is in your two
Well, I
courts.
think a week. I think by next
I
week.
think a week,
I'll have my
if
answers.
we can get all the answers, would be sufficient. One thing I do definitely want to see addressed as part of this conversation is more of the, I saw in the first, address the C Street landfill funding. Because I see it on a couple times here, one time 6% increase, and I would like to know how that works if we do go to privatization. Is it a fee that's added on to their bill, or, and also I think that something we've talked about before too is the billing. Who handles the billing? You know, are we freeing up more of our staff time by having the billing come through Mason County Garbage, or does it cause more confusion if it stays with our city bills? There are a lot of details, which I realize don't have to be figured out by next week, if we should be able to make a decision then.
And I think we have addressed most of those, Tracy. There was just a lot of information here to get through, but yes, every one of the services that we provide at this point, including billing and customer service, would be transferred to Mason County Garbage.
Okay.
And I just want to reiterate that this has not been taken lightly by myself or our staff either. We have met, not only myself, Brian, we've met with the leadership team. We presented to them. I have met many times with Steve Gilmore, Rick Frederickson, Dan Schooler from Mason County Garbage. I also met, like I said before, with Mike Johnson, who was the former owner of Mason County Garbage. So as a staff, we have not taken this lightly either. We tried to cross every T and dot every I, and we feel like we have done that.
I have a concern that 10 years down the road, that Mason County Garbage comes back to us and says, we're not going to handle you anymore. Where are we then?
We have a 20-year agreement.
Yeah.
It's a 10-year fixed,
Right.
you know, so I'm sure that 20 years from now, 15 years from now, there will be options. It appears that a lot of cities are moving out of doing their own recycling and garbage. I'm sure 10 or 15, 20 years from now, if Mason County Garbage disappeared, there will be other options. There are other options right now, so.
And I trust that they would not do that.
They also are going to write you a check for $1.7 million up front.
That's not bad.
I have a hard time believing that that is going to be something that they take lightly and walk away from. They are a publicly traded company, and I'm not sure their investors would be too happy if they did that.
I think we concur to bring this back next week, and I think we have more questions and answers then. Is that, do we concur to follow staff's recommendation to place this on the action agenda for February 13th?
I
Yes.
do, but can I ask one more
Sure.
question? So I was forgetting about the $1.7 million check. What is that earmarked for?
The $1 million would be the first 2 years of the revenue share that would go to fund existing staffing and programs that the solid waste utility pays for now. The 1.7 million, or the $710,000 would be a one-time, not earmarked for anything. That would be a one-time payment for the equipment and assets that we currently have in the solid waste department. So the three of you can decide on what you would like to do with that $710,000 moving forward.
Are you sure you want us to
What we're
decide?
likely, yes, we do. What we're likely to bring forward, though, is discussions about the $411,000 that we need to pay back for the grants, and then also setting the balance aside for C Street landfill.
All right, great discussion tonight. And so at this time, I think we concur to bring this back on the action agenda for February 13th.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is any administration reports,
No report tonight.
any administration final touches.
Two things. We need to take a look at our strategic plan update. So this is brought forward every year or so, and just wanted to give you a heads up that we'll get a copy of that to you, and we'll start discussing where we are with that plan.
Wait,
And the-
I'm sorry, which
Strategic.
The
plan?
strategic plan.
Oh,
So
okay.
2013 through 2018, we'll get that back so that we can discuss an
Good.
update. And then we're also going to take a look at all the commission, we talked about the committees that you're on. We'll also look at the commission appointing committees around the city to make sure that they're all set for where they need to be for membership, and we'll bring that forward in the next couple weeks
Oh,
as well.
good, okay.
All right, our next meeting will be February 13th at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. This meeting is adjourned.